Good morning, Your Excellencies and esteemed participants of the Oman Food Safety Conference. It's my honor to be here today. Unfortunately, as we all got used to it in an online format, even after a year after the beginning of the pandemic. So it's definitely the safest way to communicate today. So I hope one day we can also transfer the food the same way, very much safe and online way. But I believe we are still very far away from this day, and hence my presentation will be dedicated to the logistics and to the initiatives that ASYAD Group, which is the government arm and logistics investment and the operator of major assets and logistics in the Sultanate of Oman and internationally taking to solve the food safety and food security problems. There were some very disturbing facts in Her Excellency Noor al-Haddad's presentation about the issues that we are facing regionally and globally in terms of food safety. So definitely supply chain logistics is one of the elements that's required to fix these problems. In terms of strategy of the Sultanate for the long-term strategy for the next 10 to 20 years, one of the elements of it is to become a food hub. As we all know, majority of major foods are still imported into the region, to Middle East, not only to Oman. And there are several elements that have to be, some elements have to be in place to create the food hub, enabling Oman not only to produce and become self-sufficient, but also to re-export and potentially supply the neighboring countries with the food, with the major food commodities. Some of them, of course, are production of and manufacturing of food in the country, utilizing the existing natural resources for farms and fisheries, and as I mentioned before, of course, the logistics, as we need means to store, to transport, and safely deliver the food items to the customers. We know that Oman has undoubtedly lot advantages in terms of geographical positions. We have the luxury of ports and having direct connections to a large region, the Indian Ocean region around us. And this enables us to, as having a good start to build the food hub around for the region and also globally. Where we look at in our approach, when we look at the way the food travels around the globe, look at the international corridors. We identified several of them. I'll not go, of course, to each commodity individually, but we know that Oman is in the middle of 2 billion consumers around the region, and of course, with neighbor of some very populated countries like India, which is also at the same time our largest trade partner and supplier of food. Last years, the amount of food which was imported from India to Oman reached 300,000 tons, and approximately 140 of this were fruits and vegetables. A large portion of it were meats and other perishable goods that require definitely cold chain solutions, that require reefer containers, and proper storage in the country to enable not only the safe supply of these goods to the consumers, but also potentially the re-export, production, processing, and value-added services for these items to be shipped later to GCC region and Upper Gulf and Yemen and East Africa and other mainly dominating consumer markets. When talk about the country, it's not only Muscat, where the majority of the population is located. Oman has a large territory, it takes a large area, and the population is distributed not equally across the country, obviously concentrated between Muscat and Sohar and another large populated area around Salalah. To make it more complicated, the food production sites, the local productions are also not concentrated as it normally is in all countries in the residential areas. So the challenge for the logistics companies, ourselves and our colleagues, is to ensure the hub and spoke system, the delivery and storage of and distribution to the consumers in Muscat area, delivery of the food items, perishable goods to the secondary locations across the country, and as well as ensure the transportation, where, of course, as I mentioned before, because the consumption and the production is not evenly distributed, we face a lot of idle time or empty transportation and other problems that have to be dealt with when we're talking about such large destinations. The food hub framework includes definitely not only logistics, but at the same time, we will say that all these elements are deeply connected to each other, with the food safety and food security being at the heart of the food hub framework. So what we're looking at as our scope and at ASYAD, primarily the logistics and supply chain solutions, being at the 4PL or 3PL solution, the cold warehousing, collection centers, reefer transportation, international freight solutions, sea freight, last mile delivery. So the aim is to create a supply chain, cold chain solution that will literally cover the entire demand from, what we say, from farm to fork to the customer, while considering the other aspects of the food hub, which are equally important, and for example, the food technologies and cost of doing business, marketing regulations, where we don't have the direct influence on. However, they're very important to enable us to do our job. Talking about the ASYAD portfolio, probably the participants from Oman already very familiar with what we do. I will hence focus only on the activities that are directly related to today's subject. ASYAD portfolio includes ports, economic free zone, and ports. I'll go a little bit more deeper into it. We run the national fleet of 55 vessels, which also includes the dry bulk as well as container feeder vessels. We are in the process of establishing our in-house cold chain food solutions, something which is directly related to the food safety. And since 2 years, we run the ASYAD Express, a new service, the last mile delivery to the customer, enabling connecting food producers for time being for dry products or packaged goods across Oman and also international. Starting with maritime solutions, as I mentioned, ASYAD owns and operates the fleet of modern vessels. Some of them are owned and some are chartered. And well, obviously, the first priority historically were the tankers and oil and gas vessels connecting Oman to the world. Now the focus is changing, and you can see it from the graphs. The number of our other solutions is growing, so we're growing our fleet of container vessels and dry bulk goods vessels that's operating internationally, as well as we're growing our own lines connecting Oman with the GCC countries, with the upper Gulf countries, which are doing very well, very busy lines, as well as connecting Oman to India, which is obviously, as I mentioned before, is our main trade partner, and we're looking forward to expand these services further. I can also mention that we're looking into launching other countries like Pakistan, and also in the near future, also the African countries, and connecting them to the ports of Oman. In terms of handling the food items, we operate our own fleet of 100 plus reefer containers, including some of the latest technology, enabling us to monitor and track the temperature and the location of the containers, which are very high in demand by the traders and the local producers. What we will say, if in the past the main focus was on the international traders and importers of food items into Oman, we see now a growing demand from the local manufacturers, as engineer Saleh Shanfari was mentioning, there is a number of very successful food producing projects and companies established in Oman, and after the securing the domestic market, they're looking out to expand and to export their products into neighboring market, and we looking to playing a bigger role in their success. When the vessel comes into the port, the job is long not done. It's all about the efficiency and the speed of handling the containers, delivering them to the customer. As you can see, as ASYAD, we operate and representing the government and the joint ventures across all deep sea ports in the country with a growing capacity and covering the entire coast of Oman. These are the three major ports of Sohar, Tukum, and Salalah, as well as the smaller ports which are handling ro-ro vessels and smaller vessels coming from the regional suppliers, all the way from India, Iran, Upper Gulf, and East Africa. I would like to mention one special project that we have, which is currently under construction, which will be definitely the physical food hub of the future, and definitely for the major player and the food distribution for Oman. It's the ASYAD food city, and its first phase, which will cover the fruits and vegetable markets. This project will include storages facility, wholesale retail facilities. It will provide land and access to the market for packaging, value-added services companies, for food producers alike from the region and globally. It's also part of ASYAD's portfolio, and we're looking forward also to provide our own services within logistics services, cold chain services to the companies in this project. One of the elements that's already being established as we speak and will be ready by this year is a dry port, which connects seamlessly the Sohar port and containers with the ASYAD economic city and the future food city. I already mentioned the port services, so we are not only owning the ports itself, we also operate the ports and terminals, and in the future it will be covering not only the ports in Oman itself, but it will also grow. Our portfolio will grow also internationally, and even today we already can be proud of some successes regionally, being not only the most cost-efficient provider and in the region, being also one of the fastest with well-established pre-clearance procedures, and also with 90% of the containers and the shipment being released within 1 hour from the customs, 1 hour after the submission. Last mile, but it's definitely something that's on everyone's mind today, is the delivery and the express delivery to the customers. Our own subsidiary, our own company, ASYAD Express, is delivering today goods packages within from 24 to 72 hours everywhere across Oman, and also to 200 countries around the globe through our partner network. At the moment, we do not offer the cold delivery, cold chain delivery. However, this is a matter of the nearest future. And as demand grows, and demand is growing exponentially, in a way also driven by the lockdown situation and the limited mobility of people during the COVID pandemic, but also driven by the development of SMEs and e-commerce globally. We're definitely sure that the range of services provided by the ASYAD Express will grow and include some more food items, as today they're already one of the most popular products being home delivered around the world. And one more point I would like to mention: our job will be not completed if we just focus on the mere delivery and timely delivery, which usually was the core of any logistics business. However, today we have to look into also sustainability of what we are providing. By definition, the cold chain, the storages, and the transportation are some of the most energy intensive industries. We've burned a lot of electrical power to keep the warehouses cold. Thanks God, today there are also already solutions enabling to do this in a very efficient way, utilizing renewable source of energy, solar panels, and some of these warehouses and solutions we already seeing being utilized, and such warehouses and solutions being already offered in Oman. And I'm sure this it's a long process. One of the challenges that we face here is that most of the market is driven by a number of small, medium, and even very small enterprises providing different elements of the cold chain solutions. And this, we are talking about more than 90% of the market. A lot of companies providing the services in-house, so this limits the reach of the 3PLs. However, the 3PLs, just like ourselves, solution will be growing and will be gaining and traction definitely, and market share in the next years, also driven by the international connectivity and involvement and introduction of more global players into the Middle Eastern region, Middle East region. So we urge everyone who is involved in providing cold chain solutions not to look into the yesterday's day and not in the solutions that were available already for very long time internationally and also here in the region, but to make sure that you become more cost and energy efficient by providing also the same way more affordable solutions for your customer, because it's not a secret that because of the huge cost pressure on transportation and logistics warehousing companies, there is always a temptation to compromise on the temperature or mainly on the temperature and in your facility, which should not be the case, and obviously it has a direct impact on the food safety. So having said that, I think there is a very positive signs already on the market, and all these elements, once they're in place, will help Oman to become the food hub, which is the ultimate goal, and attract more producers, logistics companies. And we're looking forward to support them through our existing network, through our ports, free zones, our own 3PL and 4PL activities. I wish big success to all participants of today's conference. I think it's a great initiative, a lot of efforts from the organizers, and so this is something that we definitely needs even maybe more this region than elsewhere, because of the temperature, because of the growing and because of high dependency on the import, and with the long distances the food has to travel to come to our tables. So thank you very much, and once again, have a good day and great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Igor, for joining